Okay, so we were on my final movie, on my final review for until Kong Skull Island. So this countdown is over. And with that all being said, there's going to be spoilers in this review. So that is your warning. Now, when I heard that this movie, well, when I saw the teaser for this movie, I was pretty excited. And when I saw, like, I'm all for movies being long. Like, the more, I get the experience, I'm like, yeah, I want movies to be longer. I want to experience the movie. I want my experience with the movie. I don't want it to end. So it's like when I found out that this movie was 3.5 hours long. I'm like, yes, they are spoiling me. Like they're gonna add so much to it. Ugh, that really excited me. But when I actually sat down and watched the movie, um, it really, really dragged on as when we're in New York and as it, as in Act One we're in New York and we're about to, be on our way to Skull Island. It just goes super, super, super slow. And the only thing different this time, they made changes to this one too. What's different this time, and Daryl is a recently, unemployed actress looking for, she's looking for a job, and then and Carl Denham finds her as he's looking to, make this movie, and he wants to make it on this island that he's come across, that he discovered. He wants to take, all the equipment over to Skull Island and basically make a movie there. And then he gets Anne on board, and then they get on board, and then he illegally gets them, everything there, to make his movie, and he has, a script writer, Jack Driscoll, and only his name is not John Driscoll this time, and he's not a sailor or whatnot. He's basically a screenwriter now, and it's Jack Driscoll, and him and Anne fall in love, like ask her on their way to Skull Island, and some people who are on the boat are telling them of there's a legend of a creature that that is a king there. And what's different is Carl Denham knew about Kong in the original movie, and here he did not know about him, and he does not believe them when they tell him about Kong, and he's just like, oh, you're just trying to scare me, whatever. And then they get to the island, and there's the natives, and they are scary as fuck. The natives are scary as fuck in this movie. Oh man! And then they eventually get a hold of Anne. And they eventually get a hold of Anne, and then before they get a hold of her, they changed it up a little bit, like where they were able to get away from the natives and they get on the boat. But before that, that badass skipper shoots one of the natives. Here's my one gripe with this movie. Like when the skipper ship, when he kills one of the natives and he shoots them, I mean the natives they barely don't have any clothes on. They just have on, like necklaces and skirts, like in a native skirt and whatever. But when he shoots him right in the torso area, there is no bullet wounds. He just reacts to the gunshots like, ugh, ugh, ugh. I'm like, where is he shooting him? Where is he shooting him? Like, epic fail. Epic fail. But anyway, the natives get a hold of Anne. They take her to Kong, and basically, right away, she basically connects with him right away. Like, she was scared of him for just for a moment, and it was for a very short period of time. Like when she tries to get away from him the first time and he won't let her leave, and she's trying to entertain him, like with what she knows, like from her original job, and he enjoys that. He's actually laughing at that, and and that's where you really start to see the different side to Kong. Like he's this big epic legendary king, but he's like a little baby. Like he's watching like a little baby watching the babysitter, entertain them, and he knocks her over. He picks her up and knocks her over, and he's getting the kick out of it. And that moment, like during that moment, she's no longer afraid of him, and she yells at him like, "That's all there is. There isn't any more. I said no." And he gets mad and he throws a little temper tantrum like a baby. and then he goes off and he disappears or whatever, leaves Anne by herself, and then the dinosaurs are back for this remake, and the T-Rexes are trying to get a hold of Anne, and then there's these little giant ass insects that she comes across while she's trying to hide from all these prehistoric creatures. Man. And then eventually Kong comes back before the Rex, could, make a lunch meal out of her. And then Kong is fighting all three of these things. He just fought one in the original, but here he fights three of them. And it's very epic. I like how they expanded, like when they're on Skull Island, when they expanded, the time with Kong, and while they're on the island, I enjoyed. But when they expanded the time of getting to Skull Island, they could have shortened that part of the movie down. But when they're on Skull Island, it is epic. It is fantastic. And I wish they had this in IMAX 3D, because it looks like it would be a great IMAX 3D experience. And then I liked how they stayed true to how Kong killed the Rex in the original movie, and they brought that into this one, where he tries to open his mouth, and then the Rex won't open his mouth, and he punches him, opens his mouth, and then he crushes his, and then he just breaks his jaw, and then he just playing with his mouth. It's great. I liked how they kept that in there. And then after that, when Anne goes to walk over to Kong, Kong is still mad at her. He looks at her, and then he lifts his head up all pissed like and makes you love him even more. And then and what's different is Anne is telling him, "Wait, no, don't leave me out here, wait." Like in the original version, she would have tried to get, to escape him once she saw the opportunity to get away, and he's gone, and they're like, "Okay, yes, he's gone, now I can try to get away." But here she's chasing him like, "Don't leave me." And then they have another heart-to-heart moment where they watch the sunset, where they're on top of basically where Kong lives, like where he's on this high rise, where he's on this mountain or whatever, and you see the bones of all of his relatives that, all the other Kongs that were there before. I guess, the bones of his parents or whatever. And they sit down and they're watching the sunset, and she's trying to entertain him again, and he's just looking at her like, "Meh." And he's so focused on the sunset, and then she teaches him a hand language, telling him, saying beautiful, beautiful. And that gives you another heartfelt moment later on in the movie. But like when we left, Jack and Carl and the other crew from the ship, like where Kong basically threw them off his trail. That was done well. And then where they're fighting these giant ass insects, like giant maggots, giant flies, giant spiders. Oh man, it would have been cool to see Kong being, having to fight them. But and then eventually they're saved by the rest of the crew, and then Jack goes off to find Anne, and then Carl has this idea where, "Yeah, let's bring Kong back to New York, knock him out, yeah." And then Jack gets to Anne, and then they try to escape Kong, and Kong is on his tail, and Kong gets right to where Carl wants him to be, and then they're throwing these bombs at him, like to basically knock him out, and he's not going down that easily. He's fighting them for like maybe 5 or 6 minutes, and then they finally knock him out, and it's emotional. It's emotional for Anne, and it's emotional for Kong too, because she's yelling at them, "Stop, stop!" She's crying like, "Stop!" And they have that connection, and and then he's reaching out to her as he's falling asleep, and she's crying, and it's, man, this Peter Jackson wants to take your hearts and stomp on them as much as he possibly can. And then, and the only difference is, like, this time, like, well, like, they were gonna have Anne, be there when Kong was basically exposed to New York, to the world, to the everybody, and she wouldn't do it. Why would she? I mean, she went off to go do work like on another play or whatever, and then Kong, you already know what happens. Kong escapes. He looks for Anne. He's grabbing every random blonde to look for Anne, and then he drops them when he discovers that it's not Anne. He's like, ugh, whoop, whoop, whoop. and then Jack tries to be the hero and lead him away from everybody in downtown, and he knocks him out, and then Anne walks over to Kong, and then they have another heartfelt moment. Oh my gosh. And then they're sliding around in this ice rink. Like, Kong has Anne, and he's spinning around like this, and he's spinning around, and then he gets on his belly and he slides across the ice rink and everything. It's just, it makes, man. Okay. And then the army is shooting at Kong, and then he runs away, and then he's running to the Empire State Building. He's climbing on top of there. I mean, like, no, we know where this is leading to. No. And then to make it even worse, they see the sun. They see the sun coming up, and then Kong is telling Anne that it is beautiful by him hitting his chest, like how she taught him, and he's telling her that it's beautiful. And there comes the fucking planes, and oh man, and Kong is actually trying to protect her, and while they're trying to protect each other. She's trying to basically follow him, and he's pushing her out of harm's way. He's trying to get her to safety, and she wants to get up there. She's trying to climb a ladder. She almost gets killed, and he grabs her, gets her away, and then they're shooting at him, and she gets up right to where he's at, and she's yelling, "No, don't do it. Don't shoot him." And man, this is probably just as, if not more, emotional than the other remake when Kong died. Where this movie makes you stew on his death, or stew on what what's gonna happen. And they're just, man, it is more heart shattering in this one. And Kong is a lot more likable. When I saw this movie, that's when Kong earned himself a huge place in my heart. When I saw this remake, that's when my respect for Kong was born. Man. And when I showed Lindsay this movie, and she is in tears. She is like, I do not want to watch this movie again. I want to punch Peter Jackson in the face. Oh man. So, I mean, yeah, it dragged on in the first half of the movie when they're getting from New York to Skull Island, but they could have shortened that down a little bit. This could have been a 2.5 hour movie. But what makes what I love about the original is it was a lot more fast paced, and it didn't drag scenes on that didn't need to be dragged on. You know what I mean? And like I said, I mean, like when Carl Denham says it was Beauty that killed the Beast, I can see what he meant. I mean, like, what I see from this version is that Kong is basically more focused on keeping Anne safe rather than keeping himself. He's more focused on her safety than his own safety. You know what I mean? Like, I guess, if it wasn't for Anne, I guess Kong would be able to defend himself, I guess, better if it wasn't for her, I suppose, in this version, I guess. But still, still, like I said in the original, for like the original version, Carl Denham's thirst, his hunger for money got Kong killed. That is what killed the beast. When you took him off his island, took him to New York, that's what killed him. You signed his death warrant just by doing that. So with that all being said, I have to say this gets 4.5 chairspins out of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.5 chairspins. So this is basically it. So we'll see how Kong Skull Island turns out. And so this will be the first Kong movie set in the modern time. So this will be interesting. Or this will be the first movie in the modern time that we've gotten in like for like what, decades? For like at least 2 or 3 decades? Man. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed my review on this movie, make sure you thumb up the video. Make sure you click subscribe if you're a newbie to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in my review for Kong Skull Island. So, in the meantime, peace out, y'all.